Hello everybody, I'm Antonia and this is Noel, and we are from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company, and we are here in our studio to talk about the voyage that we took on the Queen Mary 2 with our production of Gulliver. This is part 2.
Yeah, so last time we kind of talked about doing the show itself and the challenges and the specific things about doing the show on the ship. This time we thought we'd talk about the other stuff that we got to do while we were there. I do just want to say before we get started though, I've called this vlog Travels into Several Remote Nations of the World. But for those who aren't aware, the reason I've called it that is because that's the kind of original title of Gulliver's Travels. So it's a little in-joke there.
And also, if you are enjoying the vlogs, please do give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel. Welcome to the new subscribers. I definitely know that there have been quite a few of you. So hello and welcome to our videos.
So, as we said, last time we talked about the show itself, but obviously doing the job on the Queen Mary 2 was quite a unique experience in itself. Anything like you and I had ever done before. We'd certainly never been on a cruise or anything like that before, so we didn't really know exactly what to expect. We've spoken to a few people and known a few people who've worked on cruise ships,
and somebody who actually specifically worked on that ship, also people who'd taken a holiday with their elderly parent on that ship as well.
So we've been given a bit of advice and a bit of an insight and a bit of kind of like, oh, you should do this, or you should definitely go and hang out here at this point. But we thought we'd just talk a little bit more about kind of what we got to do on the ship itself, and also the places that we got to visit while we were on board, which was a big bonus of doing this job.
Very much so. Places that we never would have had the chance, I don't think, to go to.
No, sure.
And so the ship itself, let's start with that, is extraordinary. I mean, it's big, and we thought it was enormous until we docked in Singapore next to the most enormous ship I've ever seen in my life, which was literally like a tower block on the water. Yeah. Nonetheless, to us, it's a large ship, and it's got a huge amount of facilities. So on board, you have various restaurants, and then you, as you might expect, and then you have the main theatre, the Royal Court Theatre. Did they call it the Royal
Court Theatre? Yeah.
Doubting myself then.
I think seats almost 1,000 people.
It's massive.
It's a huge theatre with moving stage and
all sorts of all the kind of flashy light things and whatever. And then you've got the illumination space, which is where we were performing, which we showed you in the vlog last week, which, as we said, is also a planetarium and a cinema.
That seats like 450, 500, something like that.
Something like that. And then you've got a library.
Yes, there's a library.
There's a fully equipped gym.
There's a gym.
There's a spa. There is, what else is there? And I mean, the deck spaces. So there are 3 pools, 1 indoors and 2 outdoors. And then there are certain areas of the boat that are exclusive to the next level of guests. So we were treated handsomely as Britannia level guests, and then there are various ones above that for people who want to pay a lot more money. I think the top tier you get a butler and all sorts. So there are other areas of the ship which we actually didn't explore because we couldn't. But then there's a pub on board, there's a sort of club, there's an amazing...
there's a nightclub, there's
a room called the Queen's Room, is that right? Where the ballroom dancing and everything took place, and where we did our workshops.
Yeah. There's an art gallery.
There's a gallery, yeah. And there are shops, all sorts of shops. A casino. There's a casino, yeah. I mean, it is quite extraordinary, and the whole thing is like being in a complete bubble, because you're not trapped. That you don't feel trapped. Actually, I was worried that I would feel trapped, especially when we had 6 days on the ocean and we weren't going to see land for 6 days. I thought I would feel claustrophobic. Actually, I didn't at all, and not at all. It's a very open, very airy ship to be on. It's very, very pleasant. Everybody is lovely, and but you are in this bubble where you can't really be contacted because the Wi-Fi is
no, the internet wasn't great on there. It's just about enough to kind of pick up emails and
post Instagram stories.
Yeah, and even when you were posting to Instagram, you were kind of having to sit in the one place where the signal was best, and then wait quite a while for it to gradually tick away and upload. So you're you cut off in that sense. You can't quite use the phone and.
But there's actually something really nice about that in some ways. You pointed out to me at one point that I'm a warrior, and there is really nothing you need to worry about while you're there.
I think that was the thing that surprised me the most, was that before going on there, I probably would have said that a cruise wasn't really for me. It wasn't something that was kind of on my to-do list. But what I realised was that part of the big enjoyment of being on there is exactly that, is that you've had nothing to worry about. You don't have to worry about, where you're going to go to eat, how you're going to get back to your accommodation.
Whether the food is going to be good because the food is delicious.
All of the food was
Whether
fantastic.
there's going to be something that you'll like because there's a huge variety.
There's a huge programme of events to do, of which, we were a small part of that, but there's a huge list of other different things that you could be doing, from, painting classes to ballroom dancing to other shows to lectures on...
Wonderful music going on all around at all times of the day.
You don't have to worry about where you're going to travel to. That is all taken care of for you. You get taken from the one place to the next. So in that sense, if you wanted a holiday where you can completely kind of go, okay, I don't have to worry about any aspect of this, then...
Yeah, you can really understand it. And also for us, then on a work-related sort of side of things, we didn't have to worry about how we got to the venue. We didn't have to worry about how long it was going to take us, whether there was going to be traffic. We walked to the venue. The first time we were doing the show, I remember we got there way too early because we hadn't realised really just how close it was.
It was about 2 minutes walk away from our
Literally just
cabin.
down the stairs, and we were carrying stuff and we thought, oh well, we need to leave a little bit of time, and we just ended up sitting there waiting because there was a lecture going on.
And we naturally did that thing where we're leaving the room and we're checking that we've got everything and kind of going, okay, we've got this, we've got the laptop, we've got the sound things, we've got the...
And then suddenly
we
thought,
oh, well...
It literally couldn't matter less if we
just
hadn't.
around the corner, yeah.
We could just pop back up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to like in that sense, and I think you have to get into we got into a routine of it, and you certainly, for us, exercise was a really important thing because we like to keep fit for our work, and we generally do. We're very active people, all three of us, and so there was for the sea days, we very much you would go to the gym. That was your...
I was very grateful
that
the gym was there, because that really was a great part of the day to be able to go and do that.
Yeah, and then Adam would go to the gym and then swim, and then I don't mind the gym, but I like the fresh air, so I found that the deck 7 wasn't it, where you could do, I think it was 3 loops of deck 7 was a mile or something, so all of the guests, that's what they were doing as their exercise, but consequently for me it was a bit... I wanted to go faster than that. I'm a very fast walker, and that slightly irritated me. So I went to the very top deck where they were kind of upstairs, up and down and everything, and sort of ran round the top deck. And that was great. It was a lovely thing to do in the sort of early morning with the morning light and everything. And once you found your routine, and then I went for a swim. Once you found your routine with things like that, then you realise you can do everything you want to do.
I think the crucial thing is really that the ship was a very pleasant place to be.
Yeah.
And... there's loads of different places that you could go, loads of changes you've seen. You really had to keep reminding yourself that you're on board a ship as well. If you were sat in the pub or you were in the gym, you sort of look out the window and go, oh yeah, of course, we are absolutely on a ship. Like I said, and like you were saying, it seemed to us like a very, very big ship, but apparently I understand that there are far bigger cruise ships out there as well, which is staggering to think of.
And then in the evenings, people like to sort of shake things up a little bit. So there is a dress code on board the ship, which you can avoid if you want to. There is the sort of buffet dining option where you don't have to dress in anything formal. But for the most part, actually, in some ways, it was quite nice to change your clothes for the evening because you are relatively confined.
It gave it a sense of occasion.
Yeah, and so there were 2 options for us for food. We could go for the buffet, or we could go to the Britannia restaurant, which was a very smart restaurant where you got 3-course meal, and then they came with petit four at the end and everything, and it was all very, very, very nice, very swish. Certainly not what we would normally be used to.
No, we were laughing and thinking, well, we're going to have to go back on a normal tour after this, and we'd
go to the Beefeater next to the Premier Inn and be
we'll
like,
be missing our petit four.
Where's our petit four? So we got relatively smarter dressed in order to go to that one. We didn't go there every night by any means, because sometimes we just wanted to be able to relax a bit more.
And there were a couple of gala evenings where they encouraged people to really go black tie and dress up with a sort of a theme occasionally. I think there was 1920s was one of them. And
yes, that was one of them.
Black and white
was another. Yeah.
So we
made
an effort.
You forgot your bow ties.
I forgot my bow ties, yeah, which was fortuitous really, because actually it led to Antonia making me from scratch a completely original bow tie that nobody else would have had, out of our text fabric. The
only fabric we had. Obviously I always bring some, well not obviously, but I bring some spare text fabric with us wherever we go, just in case I need to do any repairs. And yes, so I made Noel a bow tie out of that. And you borrowed your DJ from my dad.
I did, yeah.
Adam
I don't own a dinner jacket.
No, I mean, we don't, this sort of stuff. I was wearing a dress the first evening that I wore actually on stage when I was playing Titania as part of a sort of concert presentation. But nonetheless, again, they were fun. We never really get the chance to do that. So the three of us thought, well, why not? Let's get all dressed up. And everybody does. And that's really the only thing. There are sort of vaguely themed elements to the evening, but it's really just an excuse for everyone to shake it up a bit and have a slightly different
Yeah, and it's nice. Again, like I say, it gives it a sense of occasion. It is really quite fun. And then, of course, the other great aspect to it was that we got to visit places, albeit briefly, but that we probably wouldn't have got to go to otherwise. So we started off, unfortunately, the way it started was in Dubai. I don't mean unfortunately it was in Dubai, I mean that we didn't really get to have a chance to look around. We were in Dubai last February for the expo.
Well, we also didn't have a chance to look around because we basically went from our hotel to the expo. So it was slightly frustrating, wasn't it? Because we got to Dubai this time with all the trunks and had to go straight to
the airport was familiar,
Yeah.
and then we sort of drove through the city and went, these are all these things we didn't get to look at last time.
Yeah, and then went to the cruise terminal. But that's fine. We can't really complain. The first stop we made then was Oman, and we had our technical rehearsal that day. So.
Yeah, we were fortunate really because we didn't think that we would get to go ashore at all. The kind of nearest city, the port city, but the port was Muscat, and the nearest city, the big city, is Muscat, which is the capital of Oman. And we didn't think we'd get to go ashore at all. But fortunately, the technicians were great. We got through the technical very quickly. So we did have just a few hours. And we didn't really get to see much.
About an hour, I think.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, once we'd actually got ashore, it was about an hour, wasn't it? But we were happy to be able to do that.
Oh,
so just going to have a little look around. We went into the nearest souk and had a look around there and had a little bit of a walk around outside the outskirts of the town.
Walked up to the fort that's there, walked around the edge sort of the water, and it was just nice to be able to say that we had gone there, wasn't it? We'd stepped ashore.
And see just a tiny little sliver of Oman. So, it was nice to just get that opportunity.
And then then we had 6 days at sea, and then the next stop was Malaysia, and was Penang, and we had the whole day there.
Yeah, Penang was absolutely brilliant. I really loved it.
I think it was our favourite. Well, it was my favourite.
Yeah, my favourite too. I don't know what it was about the atmosphere of the place, but almost as soon as we got off the ship, I just was like, I really like the feel of this place. I like the vibe. I just like the.
Yes, it felt really warm, welcoming, and smiley, didn't it? Everywhere you went, everybody was lovely. The people were so warm, and everything. Things are a bit ramshackle, a bit run down, but in this kind of lovely way where you felt like people had what they needed, and that was enough. If that makes sense. I don't know. I'm probably just making things up, but it was a really beautiful place, and we walked around Georgetown. Yeah.
So you can do. The kind of shore experiences, the ship and the cruise line will organise, of course, all kinds of different tours if you pay for whatever kind of tour it might be. We were trying to save money, so we didn't do any of that. We took it upon ourselves to just kind of look at the map and wander about on foot wherever we could.
And we realised that we could do that there. We were luckily we docked, and where we docked we could just walk into the town.
It was only about 20 minutes really, wasn't it, to walk from the ship itself into town. So we went and looked at some of the temples there. We went to Georgetown and had a look around. We went to the top at Komtar, which is the tallest point, where you can walk on this kind of glass bridge and
you can walk on this glass floor. So you were walking, and that was fun. There was a toddler just running around like it was nothing, and all the adults were kind of edging out.
And that was fun because knowing that we haven't got more than a few hours really to have a look around, it was nice to go and sort of get a panoramic view of the island and see a little bit of what was around us.
And then we went onto the jetties as well,
we went to the jetties,
and found an amazing temple. Well, that was you found that one.
Yeah, just kind of looking at Google Maps and going, it looks walkable from here. Let's go and have a look at this temple, which was absolutely stunning.
Had
right
a delicious
on the water.
iced coffee at one point because we were melting. It's very hot in this lovely little. There were lots of little arty cafes around Georgetown, and this one was, I mean, very cool. We were not cool enough to be in there, but
Speak for yourself.
It was lovely. It was beautiful. There's a little sort of garden it had a wooden table and a kind of tree that was coming out of the table. Yeah. It was beautiful, and the people,
and again, really friendly,
really, so lovely, lovely, so helpful. And instantly kind of like, oh, you might want to use the Wi-Fi. Here's this and here's that, and have some water. And
so yeah, really, really enjoyed Penang, and it's kind of definitely on our list, I think, of places that we'd like to visit again.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, I'd like to visit all these places again, but I really enjoyed it there.
Yes, particularly would want to go back there.
Next up
was
Kuala Lumpur.
Kuala Lumpur.
And that was an interesting one because what we realised was that the place that we were docking, which is Port Klang, fantastic name, love it, was actually quite a long way from Kuala Lumpur. Kuala Lumpur is not near the water itself. So in order to get into the city, then most people were going on some of these tours with the ship, which again, we
actually did contemplate one of those, but in fact we were way too late to book it in the end, and it would have been it was just a bit too expensive for us. So they were running a shuttle bus, weren't they, from the, as in the Cunard, were running a shuttle bus from the ship to a mall in Klang, and so we thought, well, sure, we'll get on it and see where we get to. Adam had looked on the map and he was like, I'm pretty sure this is just going to take us to the middle of nowhere, really. And he was actually
pretty right. There wasn't really much there. However, while we were there, we kind of had a conversation with a few local drivers, and one of them, who I think his name was Ennie, although he didn't speak much English, so it was a little bit difficult to kind of communicate. He was lovely, though.
He was so lovely. He had a green car, bright green car, that was a little bit, we weren't quite sure whether it was going to get us to where we were going at times.
I mean, there was a slight anxiety at the beginning, because it was one of those things where somebody comes up to you and they're kind of just holding up a laminated thing saying, I'll take you here,
It feels a little bit hustly, doesn't it? And you...
Yeah. So we were a little bit concerned to begin with, or certainly I was sat in the front of the car with this guy, and I couldn't really, I was trying to talk to him, but I couldn't really communicate with him all that much.
No.
And we started by heading for the Batu Caves.
Batu
Caves, beg your pardon, Batu Caves, of course. And once we got there, as it turned out, it was incredibly busy. I think there was a religious festival on.
And then there was something else, and obviously then cruise ships had docked, so...
And there was also some kind of big bike event or something like that.
So the car queue to get in was unreal.
Yeah, even as we were driving past the caves, you could see that the queue of people was crazy.
And the queue, going up the steps, so he just said to us, he was very sweet actually, didn't he? He said, you know, with the time you've got, this is silly, you know.
Yeah, shall we? He was at the junction, kind of going, shall we go? Shall we cancel? Shall we go somewhere else?
Yeah, can I just take you back to KL?
Yeah. And it was kind of at that point that I relaxed a little bit, because I kind of felt like, oh, you know, he's trying to do the best he can, to get us to see what we can. And then he was fantastic after that. So he took us around we went to the Petronas Towers and had a quick look at them.
He was like, you've got 15 minutes, take a photo, get back in the car. Because I think he knew really that there wasn't that much more to do. And so we did.
Yeah. And
we gave him a time limit, because obviously we had to be back on the ship.
He took us to a temple that a friend of ours, that Mark Collier, who had been to Kuala Lumpur, recommended. I can't remember, I think it was the Siu Mahaman temple. I'd have to check.
I can't remember.
The name of it.
But we went, when we went there, it was being renovated, which was a shame because we couldn't see the very front of it. But he was excited, and he was like, oh, I've actually never taken tourists here. Yeah. And then there was a ceremony happening when we got there, which was amazing to watch. So we were very lucky, really, because we got to watch this.
Yeah. The whole kind of the ceremony going on with music and instruments and people, you know, it was
and
fascinating.
Incensing and oils and beautiful coloured. I mean, I don't know what was going on, and I meant to look it up actually, because I'd like to know what's going on.
The other lovely thing though was we weren't allowed to wear shoes in there.
Oh no.
And in order to go in, you had to leave your shoes with with a guy with little baskets outside and leave a donation. And
the donation was nominal. I think it would have been probably like 20p or something. But we didn't have any currency.
Local currency. So Ennie, the driver, stepped in really and said, well, I'll pay for you. So again, that was a really lovely thing for him to do.
So sweet. I mean, he knew we didn't have currency. He knew we were going to pay him when we got back to the port. But yeah, it was terribly sweet. And then he took us to.
We went to the KL Tower.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's the tallest.
I think the viewpoint is the Tule. I think so. And we went up most of the way. We didn't go all the way to the top.
Yeah, but again, it's a fantastic panoramic view of the city, so you can see all the way around.
And the forest as well. You can see the old forest at the which would have been something I would like to have gone to if we'd been there for longer. So we went up to the top there, and then we had a quick sort of wander around there afterwards, and then really that was all we had time for.
Yeah.
And so he valiantly then drove us back to the port. We paid him the money that we'd agreed, and that was that.
Yeah, but again, we felt very fortunate to have, in that brief time, the brief window that we had, to kind of have made it all the way into the city, and just had a very quick
taster. It was a little taster.
A look around at some of the sights that you could see there, and actually it was an amazing looking city.
Yeah, we'd again like to go back so that we can visit it properly, and with all these places as well, I wanted to visit the countryside around as well.
Yeah.
Which we couldn't get to because that was too far in one day.
So yeah, that was Kuala Lumpur, and
then we went to Singapore.
Finally, Singapore.
And we had a longer day in Singapore because we were there. The ship was docked for 2 days in Singapore, so our final day on the ship was in fact in Singapore, and then the next day we then had to leave. And
neither of us had been to Singapore before either, so again it was great to have an opportunity to visit there.
And there you could walk from the port into the city and just kind of walk around. So we walked first to the gardens, through the gardens by the bay.
Yeah, gardens by the bay, gardens at the bay. Yeah, which is where the iconic super trees are, which I think that's one of those images that everybody thinks of when they think of Singapore, because they are pretty iconic. So we went and had a look at those. They are huge and amazing.
That garden was stunning. I could have spent the whole day there.
But the rest of the gardens itself, there's lots to see there, and you could easily.
And actually, a really lovely place when it's so hot. Because for us, I mean, we're not very good with the heat. So actually, it was a nice place to be because you had this cool of the shade of the trees and everything. It was lovely. Then we walked over to what's it called? The surfboard top building.
Marina
Sands. Marina
Bay?
Sands. Marina Bay. Whatever.
Sands,
anyway, there's the building.
Again, it's the iconic one, the 3 towers with what looks like a surfboard or a ship on top.
Yeah. So we went there and we went to the top.
We continued our habit of going to the tallest thing and looking off it.
Which was great. Had a brilliant view from there. And then we came down from there and we went on a little walk then to find the museum. What was it? The Museum of
Asian Civilization. Asian Civilization,
Yeah.
Yeah, which was amazing. That was in quite a nice area.
It was a lovely area.
Because having been in the sort of skyscrapery built up section, then as you crossed the river, you were into some of the more kind of colonial looking buildings, which are kind of dwarfed by the skyscrapers around them. And the museum was fascinating. I mean, there's some incredible artifacts in there from kind of the year 800, and it's this incredibly intricate, beautiful, carved sculpture of Buddha or whatever it might be. I've got a few photos of it.
Yeah, I mean, really, you suddenly realise, because you were looking at something and then you looked at the little label for it and you're like, oh my goodness, that is that old. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and the artistry and the kind of the quality of the craftsmanship was just mind-blowing. So that was nice.
We moved on from there, had a coffee there, and then we moved on and around and walked around the sort of edge of the water where there's lots of restaurants on the water there. And we were making our way towards Raffles Hotel because Mark, again, in fact, had said, if you're going to go, you've got to go and have a Singapore sling at Raffles. It's very touristy thing to do. But it's where like Noel Coward and Somerset Maugham and all these people went, and it's kind of iconic. Yeah. So we went to Kew, and we were sort of hedging, weren't we, a little bit. I was up for it wholeheartedly, but I think because Mark had recommended it, and I was like, he's never steered us wrong in the past. You were not 100% sure because it was expensive, and we were heading to Kew. And anyway, but then some people in front of us in the queue could hear us kind of going, oh, should we, shouldn't we? And they were like, you absolutely must. We've been to Singapore X many times. We always come here, blah, blah, blah. So We did.
It was lovely. It was really
brilliant.
atmospheric. It's this incredible, really beautifully decorated, dark wood panel bar where everybody's eating peanuts and throwing the shells on the floor.
Oh yeah, that was my favourite bit about it, I think, anyway.
And there's these kind of fans on the ceiling, and everybody's drinking Singapore slings.
And you're having a conversation, quite a serious conversation, shelling a monkey nut, and then someone just goes...
And we had the company as well of the lovely Neil Georgeson, who was the pianist who was performing also on the ship, who we'd kind of met on board a couple of days before.
Yeah, so that was really nice. So we were there, and then we carried on walking to what was it called?
Kom Yang Pan. I probably absolutely butchered that.
Yes, I don't know. A road that was described as like achingly hip in one of the Time Out guides, I think. Again, it was a recommendation, and we went there, and it was cool. It was where the sort of, it was a nightlife sort of street with lots of little bars and little restaurants and things. And we went there and had a little bit to eat before we realised what the time was, and thought, oh dear, we need to get back to the ship.
To the hotel, to the ship.
Because we didn't, although the ship wasn't leaving, we knew we had to put our luggage out ready for the next day.
So the final mention for Singapore, really bizarrely, goes to the airport, which we were slightly concerned about to begin with, because we knew we had to get off the ship. We had to disembark at like 8:10 or something.
9:10, yeah.
9:10, beg your pardon, which was that was the allocated time that we had to have our stuff off. Which was all the disembarking passengers kind of had to be off around that time. And our flight wasn't until about midnight.
5 to midnight.
So we knew we'd got all this time. If it had been, any other circumstances, we might have been able to leave our luggage somewhere, but obviously we had the trunks for the show. So it was very difficult to be able to do anything with them. So we ended up just deciding, well, we'll just go straight to the airport, because everybody had told us the airport, if you have to wait anywhere, the airport is almost worth going to visit as a tourist attraction in itself. And they were not wrong.
They were not wrong.
It was
quite
absolutely astonishing. There's a section called the Jewel. I mean, apart from the fact that the terminals themselves have got quite a lot in, but the Jewel was just remarkable. There was a place where we could...
It's a giant shopping centre, really, with a cinema and all that sort of stuff in it. But in the middle of it...
In the middle of it is this incredible water feature and kind of jungle thing,
foresty thing.
Then at the very top there was all of the cloud forest, I think, as they called it.
Yeah.
And
you could go up and you could walk through that, and there were all these little sort of sculptures made of false flowers, and there were some slides which we really enjoyed.
Yeah, there's a cinema. There's a kind of weird sort of experience centre where you can do flight
VR
simulators
stuff,
and VR stuff and all that kind of thing. And you can check in your luggage really early as well. They've got a specialised place where you can check in much earlier.
From midday,
than
you can
normal
check in your luggage. So that was brilliant.
Yeah. So if you ever have to wait long term at an airport anywhere, Singapore Airport is the one to do it at.
Definitely.
So far.
So yeah.
So there we go. That was a long kind of description of what we got up to, but there's a lot to cover really, and we really enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah, we felt
fascinating experience.
Lucky to have the opportunity to go and perform on the ship, and who knows, maybe we'll go again. I don't know.
The added bonus of getting to visit these places was just great.
So, as always, if you are enjoying the vlogs, please do give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, ask any questions you'd like, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you again next time.